Kia ora everyone, welcome to the third of our 2019 conversation series, which are 3 recorded discussions with New Zealand arts managers about their experiences day to day with digital marketing. This video is part of Creative New Zealand's Optimised Video series, which is proudly curated by the Audience Connection. I'm Vicky Allpress-Hill, and today I'm talking to Tim Blake, who is Marketing Manager at Basement Theatre in Auckland. He's over at the theatre at the moment. Hi, Tim.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about the Google Ad Grant for nonprofits. So Tim's now using the Google Ad Grant at Basement Theatre, trialing some Google Ad campaigns. So we want to encourage all of you to use it. So today we're going to be having a bit of a chat about what's involved, how you get started with it, and what are some of the things to consider. So Tim, just to kick off, can you tell us a little bit about Basement Theatre and your role there and how that works?
Sure. So Basement Theatre is a space in Auckland, an art space in Auckland that's now 10 years old. We just celebrated our 10th birthday last year, and it's a place where Auckland's creative community congregates to share ideas, share a drink, and experience boundary-pushing, disruptive, and urgent live performance. We're currently home to theatre makers, dancers, visual artists, poets, musicians, comedians, and everyone in between. And they provide a chock-a-block lineup full of original, local, responsive content. And we're really proud to showcase the best new voices and Aotearoa's unique perspective across 2 performance spaces, so the theatre downstairs and a smaller studio upstairs. I'm the marketing manager at Basement, and I am responsible for the brand, audience experience, and development and marketing for the organisation as a whole. But a large part of my role is mentoring the artists that come through the space with selling their shows, so marketing and comms tips and ideas as they're preparing to get ready and sell the show. They do take control of the marketing themselves. You want them to be empowered and learn a lot through that process, but I'm there to sort of guide them and mentor them along the way.
That's great. Thank you for that introduction. So a bit about Google Ad Grants for those of you listening in. More than 20,000 nonprofits across the world use the Ad Grant to receive up to $10,000 US every month in free advertising on google.com. Our anecdotal evidence does suggest that very few of these are New Zealand arts and cultural organisations, most of whom are likely to qualify for this grant. So it offers pro bono advertising, and these are text ads only, so not image or video ads, and they appear below any paid ads for the search terms that you define when building your campaigns. So it does sound too good to be true, but there are eligibility criteria that need to be met and steps that need to be taken, as well as particular policies as you're maintaining your ad campaigns and certain requirements that you have to reach. Amazingly, I did hear from a digital agency that I have been working with in North America that it's a really, really low percentage of organisations that actually reach the 10,000 each month. Like on average, people are using, organisations are using a lot less. So if you do have the Google Ad Grant and you're not reaching your 10,000 spend each month, that's pretty common and nothing to be overly alarmed about. So in summary, in order to qualify for a Google Ad Grant, you must be a non-profit that is registered as a charitable organisation and verified as such by the local TechSoup partner. And eligible organisations don't include government entities or organisations, hospital or healthcare organisations, or schools, academic institutions and universities, although the philanthropic arms of universities can be eligible. And Google also has special programs for educational institutions, which you can find at Google for Education. So 3 key points: organisations must be located in New Zealand or Tokelau. They must be either charities registered with the Charities Register, donor organisations approved by the Inland Revenue Department, or non-profit organisations approved for income tax exemption by the IRD. So this is the Google Ad Grants site. You can find out a lot of this information here. You can filter by New Zealand and find out our specific eligibility requirements. And there are 3 core principles behind all the requirements, which I think, well, Tim, you and I, working with audiences and thinking about audiences, constantly kind of see how this makes total sense. First of all, they must be mission-based campaigns. So the keywords and the ad copy must relate to your mission as an organization that you've been approved on. And you must have a high quality and well-maintained website. So this makes total sense. The site content must relate to the content clicked and also the search terms used by the visitor. Otherwise, they're just going to get to your website. They're going to see no context or no relevance, and they're going to jump right off, and then you're not going to achieve the minimum 5% average click-through rate that you have to achieve on your campaigns to stay in the program. So the third kind of principle or requirement is that your account must be set up to perform against conversion goals and then to reach this 5% minimum click rate. So that's a bit of a very quick overview. There's a lot more detail on Google's site. But Tim, going back to that sign up and setup process, how was it for you, if you can remember that far back? Was it challenging, as you recall?
No, so I mean, it took a little while, but it was a relatively simple process for us, which I know is not the case for everyone. And like Vicky, like you said, it's like the main thing is you have to prove that you are a charity with a registered charity number, and you do fill in quite a bit of information. Some people need to do a survey. I'm not sure why, but it's not always super clear how far into the journey you are, but they do have very clear communication, and they will email you if you've missed a step or if they're waiting on something. So it can take a little while, it can be a bit complicated, but they stay very communicative of how to keep going. The day-to-day challenges of managing the Google Ads grant it's not huge, but it does require regular maintenance, like you mentioned, the 5% click rate on the ad. So if you are underperforming, you would need to look at what's happening there. Are your keywords too specific, or is the copy on the ad too long or too wordy or not connecting with the right audience? But I don't currently have as much capacity to focus on the Google AdWords as I would like, nor the expertise to do it to its maximum potential. But we have consulted with a digital agency called Flight Digital, and we haven't had them working on it regularly, but they kind of looked at it when we first set it up. So my goal going forward is to engage with Flight Digital a bit more in the next year to help us get the fund going to its full potential, really.
That's great. Google recommends using ad grants for 3 key focuses, but this is of course dependent on the nature of your organization and what your organization's mission is. But this is to educate people on your cause, recruit volunteers, and attract donors. And one great example of a local nonprofit that have used Google Ad Grants and they've shared a case study on google.com is Kiwis for Kiwi. And they work in partnership with the Department of Conservation and aim to bring all New Zealanders together to save our national bird. And their role is to provide funding and support for the many community-led groups that are dedicated to increasing Kiwi numbers. And their issue was that their web traffic was really plateauing. They were feeling that they needed to grow a bigger audience. So they turned to Google Ad Grants to establish a stronger online presence and to drive traffic to the site in order specifically to educate the public, connect individuals with partner organizations, and also solicit donations. And they segmented their account into 3 different campaigns: education, brand awareness, and ways to get involved, and used Google AdWords Keywords Planner tool, which they make available to you when you're building your campaigns, to generate keywords relevant to each category. So it's kind of interesting to see they are still running ads, and this is a good way of seeing how the ads turn up. So it's turned up towards the top because this is under the search term Kiwi Facts, and so this will be under the education arm of their campaign, no doubt. And they, if there had been paid ads under that keyword phrase, then they would have gone below those, but in this case they are the only one. Tim, can you give us a bit of an overview as to how you have been using the Google Ad Grant now and in your previous role?
Sure. So I first learned about Google Grants when I was working as the marketing manager for a year at Auckland Zoo, and a member of our team, found out about it, and we managed to set it up, and we're really excited about the potential of reaching audiences through such a large spend for free, really. And then I got a bit more hands-on with it, doing it myself. When I started at Basement a year ago and set up the Google Fund for our organization. Once I got us set up, I created what I call an always on ad, which was about promoting Basement's brand and the space as a venue more than the shows that were on, just to kind of have presence in that Google ad space. And then more recently, I've done a much more specific ad type for our 10th anniversary book, which we're selling through our website. So I've been running that for a month, and really, yeah, that one's a lot more targeted at buying the book.
Tim, what made you choose these particular campaigns for Basement Theatre?
I decided to do the always on ad, which we've still currently got running. It's been running for a year because it requires less maintenance. It's just sort of working away in the background, giving Basement that brand presence in the Google advertising space. I felt that it was the best use of the fund while we don't currently have the capacity to be creating monthly or weekly campaigns or different ads for the shows or different activities that we're doing. As I said before, we will be changing this up in the future as we apply more strategical time and budget to the Google Ads space. Google does recommend using the Google Ads Fund for more specific events or activities to really see results. So that book ad has been really great for us because it's got that specific action to buy the book. I've seen a lot more insights and direct sort of click to buy, and then seeing that people are actually purchasing it. So that's been really great as well.
Tim, I think what's brilliant is that you're just getting started and you're just trying things. And
Yeah.
I think what can paralyze us sometimes as very small teams in small arts organizations is it all feels very big and complicated. And I think with any of this digital advertising, whether it's this or Facebook advertising, it's good, you really need to just start and try and see what happens, and that's how you learn the most. So I think it's very encouraging for others that you haven't started huge, you've started small and you're building up, and you're going to talk about plans for the future and things. And I think it makes it very realistic for others to hear this experience and know that they can just get started like this too. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the policies and principles laid out for Google Ad Grants. They're all based on providing a great and smooth experience for the user. And this goes right back to what we all think about when we think about the audience journey on digital and putting yourself into the user's shoes. So what the user is doing when they're searching is they're asking a question, basically, and your website is the answer potentially to that question. So I think the way to start is to think about what questions is my website the answer to, and that can really help to get you thinking about the sorts of keyword questions that your website could provide that answer to, and then what to put in the copy for the ads. And there has to be a really close link between the search term the user uses, the content of the ad, which is then triggered as a result of those search terms, and then how relevant your web page is when the user then lands on the page. It has to be contextual, it has to be relevant to what they've searched on and what they've just seen in the ad. And then some really clear calls to action. So when we get to things like conversions, in this example, it's buying a book, it's really clear how to take that action off the web page. And that's what's going to create that smooth journey and that increased click-through rate that's going to make Google happy and keep you in the Ad Grants program. So Tim, I know you're still learning and experimenting, obviously, but is there any more information? Can you tell us a little bit more about these campaigns that you've been running?
Sure, yeah, and I really like what you said, Vicky, about you've just got to start somewhere and just like start small, get it, just go in there once you've got it set up and just try an ad. It's sort of, you don't really have much to lose. You can, if it's not getting clicks, then it's probably not performing well. You can turn it off, you can start again. So I guess one of the things that we've been experimenting with was when I started with our always on sort of brand ad, I created 3 different versions of the ad with different headings and different subtext underneath and different information. So it was about the venue, or it was about, we sort of put our values in it, or we put the pricing, so our tickets are being $30 and under. And I put all 3 on, and I sort of watched them and waited to see which one was performing the best. And once I got that information, after a couple of months of having all 3 on, I turned the other 2 off and kept that one running, just because it sort of felt like that was the one responding most to people. And that was the one that says basement theatre more than a venue at the top. Going forward, I would really like to keep trialing. I think we'll update the ad because it's been going for a year now, and we'll do that ABC sort of split again, try something new, tease out a few more values from what the basement strategy and things like that, and just see which one is responding well, and then turn the other 2 off, or maybe have 2 going at the same time too that have different purposes and are responding well. And that's what I really like about having this kind of money to play with. It's you can experiment and trial things a lot more than you might be able to if you were spending real budget from your organisation.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Tim. Just going back to that Kiwis for Kiwi campaign, they shared some amazing outcomes. They had national fundraising campaign traffic increased by 105%, and over the following 7 months, their traffic from Google Ads was up 25%. And what is particularly interesting to me is that their web traffic, Google Ads web traffic currently represents 80% of their web traffic, which I think is really interesting. What sort of outcomes have you seen so far?
We've had really good outcomes, actually. I tracked our website visitation once the campaign started, and we saw an increase of almost 3,000 visitors in the first month that it was on compared to the previous month, which has been really, that was a 43% increase in traffic. Our visitation does fluctuate, obviously, depending on what's on in the space, but I looked back through Google Analytics and have never found an increase that high before, and I definitely attribute that to the Google AdWords we had running. And in its lifetime, so it's been on for a year, the ad has had 9,000 impressions and 1,300 clicks to the website, which has been amazing for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then obviously as you experiment more and delve more into Google Analytics, you'll be able to get even more granular insights, I guess, on these sorts of results. Definitely. Yeah, and it's these tangible outcomes that are so measurable and so encouraging, and they prove that the investment is worth it. So I can see why you're excited about Google Grant and using it further. Now, as with any digital advertising, it's about planning, structure, collaboration, thinking about the audience, all those things that you need to do well before you actually launch the campaigns. So I've asked Tim to give us 3 of his top tips for those of you who are starting out with the Google Ad Grant.
Cool. Okay, so my first tip would be, like I've mentioned a lot through this, is to seek advice from a third party. There are lots of experts out there, and I wouldn't have been able to get as far as I have got with it without reaching out to them. We did consult with the digital agency Flight Digital, but if you don't have a lot of budget, I would recommend jumping onto YouTube and watching some tutorials. They were really helpful for me when I got stuck, and just seeing examples of what's a good way of creating an ad as well. And then the second one would be, again, stuff that I've touched on before, which is testing your ads. It's really having this sort of, I guess, free money. It gives you the opportunity to experiment, and I would definitely do a couple of different ads and see which ones perform best. There's so much competition out there in the Google advertising space, so you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward with your ad. And the great thing is that you can turn them on and off as you please. And my third tip would be about management. So the Google Charity Fund is awesome, but it does take quite a bit of maintenance to really make an impact. We definitely don't use it to its full potential. Like I mentioned before, it's really worth spending budget if you have it with a digital agency or expert to help you not only set up the Google Charity Fund, but maintain it and the keywords and all of the things that go with it. And also that fund, as Vicky and I mentioned before, the fund has a condition that you must maintain a 5% click rate on your ads to keep going. So there are definitely some things that you want to keep an eye on.
Yes, and Google do say to keep an eye on the alerts that they send. They communicate with you and warn you if things are not performing so well. And also you can set up some triggers that automatically turn off a campaign that's not performing above a certain point that you determine. So that can be helpful as well. So I'd echo all these things. Thank you for sharing those, Tim. And you know, if you're interested, the best place is to go back to this Google Ad Grants website. And as Tim mentioned, this incredible resource of videos on the Ad Grants YouTube channel. So there's some good overview videos to get started and also around specific aspects of building campaigns. So as a final question, I would love to hear what you and Basement Theatre are intending to do in future with the Google Ad Grants. Are you happy to share that, Tim, with us?
Yeah, sure. I want to just keep it going with testing and getting a greater understanding of what the potential of the Google Fund is. I intend to work, as I said, a lot with the digital agency a bit more to get my knowledge up and to start helping the artists that come through Basement by offering an amount of our spend each month to them to make their own ads, to start targeting certain audiences to come along to their work. I think that'll be a lot of fun and a great way to see if we can help them grow their audience and also sort of help them grow their knowledge of marketing and copy and things like that. So that's definitely a couple of things I'm keen to do in the future.
That's great. I love that what you and your team plan to do with the Ad Grant is going to benefit so many other practitioners in the sector as well, and which is obviously the Basement's philosophy as well. And it reflects your generosity in talking to me today and sharing with everyone in the sector your experiences so far. I think it's been very encouraging for people. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, no worries.
Thanks for those listening in. I hope you do feel motivated to explore and sign up to the Google Ad Grants. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below the video or to contact him or me directly. And there are 2 other interviews that have been produced in this conversation series. One is about video with Leonie from Sounds Aotearoa New Zealand, and also one on storytelling from Chrissy from The Big Idea. And these are available on Creative New Zealand's YouTube channel. So thank you very much and have a great day.